Welcome to another episode of Game Dames Vidcast. I'm your host Cindy, and today I'd like to talk to you about Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII. Of course, it is a game by Square Enix, and it is on the PlayStation Portable. I believe this game came out somewhere in 2008. And I have been playing it since, I believe, January or December. I think December, because I got it when I went on my trip back east. And I've been playing it off and on and off on my breaks. So it's taken me quite a while to get through it. However, I don't believe it's a really long game. It is a very, very fun title. In fact, I'm going to even say that it is the most fun I've had in a Final Fantasy title in a few years. I mean, Final Fantasy 13 was excellent in the combat, but the story was sorely lacking. That's always what I say about that one. This one, however, for the PSP, completely blew me away. Really did. It really surprised me. The story is solid. The gameplay is really fun, though there is a feature that's a little annoying. But other than that, it's fantastic. Of course, you get to play with the Materia System from the original Final Fantasy VII. I don't believe it's an exact copy of the old game, but it's still there, and you can, fuse materia together, make new ones, and you can kind of play around with that if you enjoy playing around with your stats and your different abilities and your magic abilities. So, and it's very, very, you can do a lot with it, and you can build your character however you want. And also, because Final Fantasy is always big on strategy, sometimes you have to switch around your materia and using different magics and different skills for different battles. So, and that's always fun to figure out, what is going to take out a monster or a boss the fastest or the best. And that's always been a big appeal of these games, and this game definitely does that. My favorite thing about the game, of course, is the story. If you've played the original game, which I really highly recommend that you do, Final Fantasy VII, which was for the PlayStation. Yes, it was for the original PlayStation, pretty sure. I think you can download it now for the PlayStation 3 on the downloadable games, which is, and it's pretty cheap, I think. But anyway, so Crisis Core is basically a prequel to that. It explains a lot of the questions that you may have had when you were going through 7 and wondering, I was always confused what happened to Cloud and why he was always like, who am I? Am I this person? Am I me? Like, he was always confused and emo and just, lost little boy. And in this game, they tell you exactly what happened. So that's great. You get to find out a lot more about Cloud's mentor, Zack, which is actually the main protagonist, and he's the guy that you play as. And you go through his story and how, all these events affected him and what role he played. And it's a very significant role. So that's great. You get to know more about Sephiroth and how Sephiroth became the villain that he is. And I always love these stories. I've been accused, not accused, but there's someone on my channel who was kept asking why I don't like Cerberus, which is on a different videos that I've been doing about Mass Effect. And the thing is, I don't hate Cerberus. I don't hate Sephiroth. I don't hate villains. I actually love villains. The better the villain, I think, the better the villain, the better the story sometimes. You have to have a great villain if you're going to have a great hero. I think that's part of the winning formula, so to speak. So I love Cerberus and Jack Harper, and I absolutely love Sephiroth. He's just so badass and hard to beat. Also, there's definitely a Sephiroth battle in this, and it's not as hard as 7, because 7, of course, he was the last boss, so it had to be extra epic and extra hard, and you had to have an exact formula in order to beat him, which I actually never got to, and I got so frustrated I finally just gave up on that fight, which is, whatever. And but this one I was able to beat him, and all you need really is to figure out a few little tricks, and then you can pass through it and continue on. And after that is actually two more chapters. You definitely want to beat Sephiroth in this game. The story also goes into the character of Aerith, and doesn't really explain her background, but it does explain her relationship with Cloud and Zack. Sephiroth a little bit, but not so much, mostly with Zack. And what was that all about, and why Cloud sort of feels the way he does about her, and which was really fantastic. And as a big fan, of course, and if you were upset in Final Fantasy VII, what happens to her, and you get to see a lot more of her. Of course, the graphics is so much better in Crisis Core than it was in the original game, so you get to see all the details of her character and her face and all that you couldn't before. So, which was really fantastic, I think. Unless you've seen the movie Advent Children, which is after the events of 7, I believe. Yes, definitely after what happened in 7. A lot of what contributes to the fun of this game is the combat. The combat is definitely not boring. It keeps you on your toes. It's kind of a mix of action combat with strategy. And most of the action is really just running around the targets. You do get locked onto your target, and that's the one that's nearest to you. But you can actually still run around everywhere, anywhere you go. You're not stuck in a circle around the target like Final Fantasy 11 or 13. You can just do whatever, and you just have to be careful where you're aiming, and which is really great. And the big thing about the action element of this is the square button, and that is your dodge button, and it takes off AP points. So you got 3 bars. You got your HP, your MP, and your AP, the ability point bar. And so don't use it up with your special abilities. You've got these special weapon abilities sometimes that will eat up your AP, and sometimes if you've eaten if it's all gone, you can't dodge. And dodging is the key to the battle, basically, a lot of the times. If you can dodge out of the way, you often get stat bonuses, or you often get status, status effects. So, for example, if you dodge successfully, you'll you won't consume any magic points if you use a magic ability. So, and different things like that. Or you won't be using any more AP points if you use your dodge or whatever skill that uses AP points. And sometimes it has an effect against silence or against poison. So if somebody throws poison at you, then you won't get poison and stuff like that. So that's really cool. So you want to be hitting that square button a lot. And I really enjoyed, just dodging things around and hitting them in the back. If you hit monsters in the back, you do critical points all the time. Fantastic. So I just love getting in the back there and just hitting them over and over. And if you're more of a ranged person, you can stand out back and also use things like fire, which becomes Fire, Blizzard, all the classic Final Fantasy magic. Also, another big element of the combat is now I'm going to say this wrong. It's called the DMW, which I think stands for Digital Mind Wave. And it is basically mixing up leveling with leveling, and by leveling I mean going up levels, and limit breaks, and kind of mix it all that together and into like a slot machine thing. It's there'll be a video here, so you'll see what I'm talking about. It's kind of strange, but anytime it kicks in kind of randomly, or if you do successful dodges or something. I'm not really sure how it kicks in, but it does. And then the slot machine thing, it's 3 slots, and they'll spin around, and then your DMWs, there's different ones that you can earn throughout playing the game, and and those are basically your limit breaks, and you've got quite a lot of them. And also you can get summons in your DMW as well. The only one I got is the Phoenix, but anyway. So every time it happens, the slot machine will go, and then if it matches, then that limit break, that special ability, will activate, and then you can use it, and of course you'll get your classic cinematic going around, and you'll do huge damage. And same with the summon. And also, on a successful roll, you will level. So you'll get, Zack is now level 20, level 22, or things like that. Also, your currently equipped materia will also level through the system. And it's kind of random, and I know there's people who've been complaining that they didn't like this aspect because they like to control how they level, or like to calculate how they level. But you can't really calculate in this because it's just kind of, whatever numbers happen in the wheel is what comes out. So it's a little interesting. I don't know if I'm explaining it right, but I thought it was cool. I thought it was actually a lot more fun that way. Sometimes I would hit 2 levels in a row, which normally never happens. So I don't know, I thought it kept things really fresh and really interesting, and not as monotonous as some of these titles can get. The Final Fantasy titles sometimes can get really, really monotonous and grindy, and this definitely isn't like that. Oh, a good thing about this game is the point of interest isn't just the main story. You can spend a lot of time just going through side missions, and there's quite a lot of them. Every time you go to a save point, you have access to your missions, and most of them can be from really challenging to really easy, where you can just grind out points, gain new materia, new skills, whatever, potions, whatever drops, loots, I'll get all your loots that way, and that's really fantastic. It adds a lot of replayability to the game. I mean, once you're, and also fantastic thing about this game, there is a new game plus. So once you're done, you can actually go through it again and again and again. So you can just keep replaying. So if you beat the game the first time and you haven't done all these side missions, you can go back and do them and just, try to be as awesome as you can. And that's really fantastic. I wish there was more games that had a new game plus. I know I always enjoyed those, and I have more of an incentive to replay a game if there's a new game plus. Maybe that's just me, but there you go. And what else? Oh, the DMW can get annoying sometimes because you're trying to do something. You're trying to heal yourself or cast Protect, which is called Barrier, or something like that, and it will pop. The DMW will just activate, and then you have to go through and even when you don't need it, when the boss is like 5 seconds from dying, the freaking thing pops up, and then sometimes it will pop up as Aerith's Limit Break, which is a healing wave. And the healing wave will heal you when you're full max health or at the end of the battle, totally when you don't need it. And then when you're like dying, the DMW refuses to kick in to save your butt. It's that kind of randomness, I guess, does get a little bit annoying. But that's about the only complaint I have about this game. Other than that, it is just a lot of fun. So in conclusion, I think this is a really fantastic game for the Final Fantasy fan. And if you don't have this already and you have a PSP, I definitely recommend you get it. Even if you're not a Final Fantasy fan, you know what? It's a really, really fun game. It's definitely one of the top games out there for PSP that I've played anyway. And it's one of the rare role-playing games for the PlayStation Portable as well. I find there's a lot of, cutesy games and a lot of movies and a lot of, other types of games, and RPGs are kind of more difficult to find. So this is definitely a very, very good one. And not just because I'm a Final Fantasy fan or anything, seriously good. And also the special effects and the movies, the CGI movies are really well done. As most Final Fantasy games they are. But on top of that, the gameplay is also a lot of fun. So 2 thumbs way, way, way up. Alright, that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed. Please come visit us at GameDames.com and listen to our wonderful podcast with Leela and Dana. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, it is at Senders, Cendres. Alright, catch you next time. Bye-bye.